Zenos paradox is really an interesting sort of thing. Zeno was saying that you could never add up an infinite number of numbers and get a finite answer. In particular, he was talking about taking a trip. He said first you have to go halfway through the trip, and then after that you have to cover 1/4 of the remaining distance, and then out of the remaining distance you have to cover half of that, which is 1/8 of the total trip. And then out of the remaining distance, you have to cover half of that, which is 1/16 of the entire trip, and so forth. And Zeno said that when you add these up, that you can never take the trip. Basically, that's what he was saying. But he was actually wrong in this, because this sum actually has a finite total. And the finite total in this case happens to be 1. So let's look at this and see why this is true. So I have a rectangle down below. Let's imagine that this is just a sheet of paper, and we want to add up all these numbers to see what we get. So first I want to add up 1/2 of this sheet of paper. So I imagine folding this sheet of paper in half and coloring in half of it. There's my 1/2 right there. Now, I want to add the 1/4. Well, that's half of what's remaining, so I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to shade it in. And the shaded piece portion of this rectangle is now 1/2 plus 1/4. Now, the next number is 1/8. That happens to be half of what's remaining here. So there's that. 1/8. 1/16 happens to be half of what's remaining here. So there's 1/16. 1/32 is half of what's remaining there. Do you see that no matter how far I go with this, what I add on is always just 1/2 of what's left over? So there's 1/64. There's 1/128. And so forth. And as I keep adding these halves and halves and halves, there is still plenty to be left over. So if I take part of this sum, and actually the name for that in calculus is a partial sum. If you take the part of the sum but not the entire sum, you always get something less than 1. And if you take the entire sum all together, you end up getting 1 for your total. So that is kind of an explanation of how Zenos paradox works. I hope that makes sense, and I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.